Hey guys, welcome to Cast. Today I'm actually just gonna be predicting all three Thanksgiving games in one video. I won't be I won't be in town. I guess just a disclaimer. At my PC for Thanksgiving, so I might just do a good amount of shorts predicting the remainder of the games um, while I'm in Minnesota. But for these, I'm just gonna do one video, call it the Thanksgiving special, and I'm going to predict these. So starting off, we have Buffalo at Detroit. Detroit obviously hosting Thanksgiving for a while now. Interesting game. We have Buffalo did just come off a win off of Cleveland, but the Lions are on a 3-game win streak. And they obviously the start of this win streak was against Green Bay, then Chicago in a close game, and then they handled the Giants in their last game. Improving their record to 4-6, having been 1-6 before this stretch. Now they actually are second in the NFC North with the possibility, I guess, to make the playoffs. Honestly, with the way Detroit is playing. I think their defense is getting a little bit better. Obviously, the Packers have had offensive struggles and put up a lot of yards, but not that many points. Chicago obviously has their offense has improved a lot, scored 30, but the Giants, who I guess haven't been scoring or putting up a lot of points, with 18, but good signs for their defense because the Lions seemingly couldn't stop almost any team, I feel like. And then we have the Bills winning their last one against Cleveland, doing so pretty handily after a very bad loss against Minnesota, where they had numerous opportunities to put the game away. Even losing to a Jets team who, after this game, people thought the Jets were for real, but they've been, floundering lately. And we look at the AFC East standings. Miami obviously in the lead, Buffalo right here, but with New York and New England both trailing behind just a game. But I'm pretty sure New York holds the tiebreaker. Buffalo, I think, is on the hot seat to win this game. They did just play in Detroit for the Cleveland game, and so they'll be playing there again. Not like a home field advantage type thing, but I'm assuming Buffalo travels well. They have a pretty big fan base and that sort of thing. But Detroit, is obviously trying to make the playoffs at this point. It's not even a joke to say that they're in playoff contention in a weak NFC record-wise. But I think that... Sorry about that. I think that the Buffalo is on a bigger hot seat than the Lions, even though the Lions do have a worse record, and they do need they honestly do need kind of they both of these teams I think need this win really badly. I think if the Lions do lose here, it's not a huge bump in the road for them. They could still go 9-7, but coming off a win against the Giants, who have a pretty good defense and that sort of thing, and able to score a good amount. I'm not saying the Giants are even as close to the Bills, but the Bills obviously one of the best defense. I think that this game is gonna come down to how hot Jamal Williams can stay. He just had kind of a monster game. Has been having a really good season. And it's gonna be something where they need him to get going. And Equanimeous St. Brown, has, really emerged this year, I think, as, being a consistent player and is now playing a lot better. Josh Allen, I think, needs to cut back on his interceptions. I know that seems really odd, but it's like the Detroit, I wouldn't say, is an interception heavy team, but they did force some, interceptions on some bad throws and just, are very opportunistic with their team, I guess, and batted passes and that sort of thing. But I am going to have to go with Buffalo, but I'm going to go with Buffalo by 3 because they do seem to have a good amount of offensive struggles. They do seem to have a good amount of offensive struggles these last few games, and I wouldn't even say. I mean, obviously against Cleveland they didn't, but it's like Minnesota, even though they scored 30, they hadn't scored in the fourth quarter, and they had kind of floundered around. And then the Jets do have a good defense, but it's like they were only able to score 17, which is, honestly kind of bad. But yeah, I'm going to pick Buffalo by 3. I think that, it's going to come down to who can have the lead and being able to control the end of the game with the fewest mistakes. Because mistakes seem to be the Achilles heel for Buffalo and why they've lost, 3 games. I feel like that's the only reason they've lost 3 games this year is because against Miami, they blew it. Against the Vikings, they majorly blew it. And then their other loss coming to the Jets, they just weren't very efficient. So yeah, I'm picking Buffalo by 3. Moving on to the next game, we have a NFC division matchup with the Giants and the Cowboys. I'm pretty sure the Cowboys are number 1. Or no, they're not number 1. I'm sorry. Oh, Dallas is ahead of New York. This is a very huge game. Usually we don't get this type of game, on Thanksgiving. But Dallas, I think, has a really, really hot, momentum coming into the game because they just owned the Vikings. I'm just going to say it. When people thought the Vikings were, a really legitimate team, the Cowboys, just really showed that they can. I mean, if their pass rush is hot and they can get to the quarterback, they're going to make it hard for any team. And I don't think Daniel Jones has the mentality to take on a team like this and do very well. He's had a very mediocre year. Saquon obviously carrying this team. But you think about Saquon, it's like, how is he going to be able to run against guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, and that sort of thing? Even though he's been having a great year, and it's like, you just look at this, the Cowboys have had a very, very sound defense and very dominant, obviously, in some games. One of the outliers being against the Packers, where they just couldn't get pressure. But they've been performing very soundly, this year, I think. And it's been the offense sometimes that it's like has been, losing them games. Like you look against Philadelphia and they lost 26-17, a very low margin for their points. But they are predicting Dallas for this game. Dallas just losing a very, very bad game where they were handled by the Lions. And the Lions haven't handled anybody this year. They've been playing well. But like we just talked about with them, they run a 3-game winning streak and have gotten hot at the right time. And, I'm going to go with Dallas since it is at their home. And they're 4-1 there. And I'm going to go with Dallas by 7 because I think the Giants' offensive struggles are just going to be too much. But and I think that they just have, too many weapons and Tony Pollard, I guess, popping off. It's like Tony Pollard's having a phenomenal year, setting him up for a contract year and that sort of thing. But Dallas by 7. Moving on to the night game, we have New England and Minnesota. Minnesota obviously coming off a very disappointing loss against the Cowboys. And New England coming off, not a convincing win against the Jets, but really limiting the Jets to what they're being able to do, But the Vikings, they came off a crazy win. I guess you could say an ugly win, which is what their story has been all year. And the Jets, are no team to just say that they lost, but a very good return and that sort of thing. And they say Minnesota for this game, but it's like I think that with the way that New England's playing, they can't fully replicate what the Cowboys did, but they've been having a phenomenal year. Judon is having a crazy year where he's on pace. He's on pace to really have a phenomenal game. And I mean, they don't say the spread is very much. I think that Belichick's a good coach. I think he's really going to make things hard on Jefferson. And I think that overall, that's got to be a huge kind of momentum thing it's got to be a huge momentum thing where they're coming off a win where they were able to hold a team just down the whole game. So I am actually going to pick I think I'm going to pick New England with an upset, bold take, and I think I'm going to pick New England by 7 points because I think Minnesota, after that discouraging loss, it's like a lot of unknowns and, short week. I don't expect them to have, that good of a game, to be honest with you. I think that New England is going to do really well against them, and I think that's kind of, a bold take, but I think that they're going to be able to force pressure. And I mean, like I was saying, I guess with the division standings, it's like Minnesota can afford to lose some games. They obviously don't want to. They want to try and get the number 1 seed from Philadelphia. But at this point, it's like you got handled last week. And I mean, now you're 2 games behind, the Eagles technically because they own the tiebreaker. And New England wants to win. New England, I mean, I think that they would want nothing more than to take this division and show that they can perform way above standards this year because nobody thought New England was going to be at all good this year. And, I mean, they still have a really great coach. And I think that Belichick is just very smart in his game plan. He's going to really limit Jefferson, which is going to kind of shut down the Minnesota offense. So New England by 3 points. But if you watch this video, I really want to thank you guys for doing so. And we'll see you next time. Just watch for some shorts on what I think is going to happen in the other games later in the week. Thank you.